This is White Belt's Odyssey podcast, episode number 5. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how I had to take some time off and sort of what I went through, and how I managed coming back to jujitsu, which was kind of strange. So pretty much, I had to take about I don't know a week and a half off of jujitsu just because I had a bunch of stuff to do at work and I had to be there, longer hours. And the time that I was there was at the same time as jujitsu. So I physically couldn't go for like a week and a half or something like that. So I took that week off. It was really boring. Not really, it was fun. Boring because I couldn't do jujitsu. So I took the week off and then it sort of came time where I'd recovered after sort of the hard work stuff. And it was like, okay, there isn't really a reason that I can't go to jujitsu. So it's time to go back. And I was sort of apprehensive. um, Physical conditioning wise, I hadn't really dropped off because, I was dancing, the whole time while I was away. So physical conditioning hadn't really changed, but I hadn't thought about jujitsu properly or done anything in like that amount of time, which for a noob, I mean, I don't know how it is if you, I mean, I assume once you've been doing it for a while that it's like taking a week off, like it's annoying and yeah, you'll slip back, but you still have the intrinsic sort of ideas of your positioning and you sort of, I don't know, maybe revert back to doing techniques that you're comfortable with. You're not taking as many risks or just throwing like, well, not throwing, but experimenting with techniques that you're sort of less familiar or comfortable with. You sort of just go back to what you know, and you just sort of build back from there. But for me, that there isn't really much that I was just like comfortable with. My body just knew intrinsically everything I do. So I sort of was aware of this coming back, and yeah, I came back and the techniques that we were doing as well was I think I came back on like a Friday, and that whole week they were covering techniques within half guard. And my half guard is piss weak. I'd say it's probably my second, yeah, second or if not weakest position to be in, both attack. Not so much to defend against or pass, but to attack. Like I never in roles went into half guard just because I didn't really, I don't really get it. Well, not that I don't get it, but I don't really know what to do in it. Like if I went into half guard, for me, it would pose more problems than advantages. So my half guard piss week, um, kind of uncomfortable with it, and then coming after all this time off, we were doing this technique, and it was just, it was kind of a bit of a struggle. I really had to, focus and apply, and I didn't quite get everything that we were doing this half guard. Like, it was fun, and it sort of made me realize how this little half guard transition could be helpful. But it's just wasn't one of my strong suits, and not something that I'd immediately go and start putting into my game. I mean, I'd start experimenting with it, but it's not something that I'd land comfortably in and be like, okay, I know exactly what to do in this scenario. Like it wouldn't come to my head naturally. So we were experimenting with that and doing that, and it was all well and good. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write this in my journal, think about it, and keep it in the back of my brain and try and work on it later. So that was fine. And we got we got to the rolling part, and I was like, yeah, fuck, here we go. Uh, and maybe part of why it sucked. Well, it didn't even really like. I don't see losing and getting smashed. Like it's not a bad experience and it doesn't suck. But I mean, I got throttled the whole session, and I felt like I sort of reverted back to when I first started, and instead of applying techniques and taking my time and trying to make sure that I got all the little details, getting all my weight placement right, get all my hooks in properly, get, all the right things, keep my body pressure on them to let my body weight do the work rather than muscling things. I sort of reverted back to my instinctual side of things rather than focusing on stuff, just be like, okay, move my leg here because I know that, but I've missed this detail and I didn't hold this arm. So now they've got my leg and I've been swept and I'm getting submitted. Um, it was really rough. I was sort of, yeah, I was rolling with, I think a dude who I'd either tapped before or who I was kind of, it was kind of at the same level as me post break. And we were rolling. And I think I took Mount at one point. It was either Mount or I was inside. And also, if if half guard was my second weakest or my weakest attack, side control, strangely, would probably be my weakest, just because I don't know or aren't comfortable with many submissions from side. But weirdly, it's one of the positions I find myself in most. So that's, I mean, I've said from the start that I need to work on my side control, but um, yeah, I guess I just need to learn. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll come. But I do end up in side control a lot, and I don't know many submissions, but I can sort of hold people there for a while. Like I have a tight side control. I just don't have anything from side control really. So I was in mount side control with this dude and just couldn't for the life of me finish him. Then ended up getting reversed, and he like if it had kept going for a while, he would have had me with something, just because I was sort of floundering. I wasn't holding my positions really well. Couldn't rack together a submission. Couldn't rack together a choke, an armbar, or an Americana, which I spoke about a couple of episodes. I think I finally sort of got comfortable with, and now it's just gone again. So that was kind of dejecting. I was like, well, this is a bit of a setback. So now I've got to sort of, regain that ground, which is annoying, but it's part of the journey. And also it might also be a good thing, because there were probably things that I was learning wrong or didn't quite cement properly, and going back over them will, hopefully help fix some of those issues. So I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's just a bit annoying. So I did the role with him and with a couple of other people, same sort of deal. And then it was the it was like it was my last role, because I think I had to go to work afterwards. But this blue belt looked at me and was like, "Do you want to go?" And I was gassed, tired. I wasn't like emotional or frustrated or anything, but I was like, it really set in that I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So this dude's like, "Do you want to roll?" I was like, "Okay, sure." And sure enough, I was just tap after tap after tap. I think I maybe got a couple of good positions, but oh god, just rolling. Just for me anyway, there is just so, like, with a advanced ish blue belt, or just any blue belt really. There's just so their positioning is just so good. There are so little. There's like no openings that I can, sneak an arm in to get a good reverse, or if I go to do a sweep or something, which is also, looking back on it, is when I went back into this instinctual stuff, it wasn't so much setting things up to put them in a good position to sweep. I'd just like go for the sweep. Like, say for instance, I pull guard, which I don't think I did against this dude, but I might have. Um, I'd immediately go for like this one sweep that I sort of know and that I'd pulled and that I was comfortable with. And instead of like setting him up, like moving an arm out of the way and pushing him in this direction so his weight's already there, and then setting things up slowly and doing it, I'd just sort of grab and throw, which even against a white belt wouldn't work. So I don't know why the fuck I did it against a blue belt. But anyway, um, nothing was working. I was just getting dominated. But at the end, he was like, "Man, just like chill. Remember to protect your neck." I was like, "Oh yeah." Just go back to the basics. Go back to square one. What's the first thing you need to think about when you're in a roll or in a match? And it's, protect the vulnerable areas, which is my neck. And it was like, he said to me like that I did a couple of good things, but I didn't go back and protect my neck, which is why I got choked out so many times. I was like, "Oh, okay." And so he told me a couple of other things, but that protect your neck thing really sort of helped bring me back, sort of stop the crazy just throwing things, and just, think about it, build from the bottom up, and don't freak out. So that was my last role. So I left, and I was like, well, that sucked. But at least now I'm back in the right direction, sort of back into thinking things systematically, not freaking out. And if I get tapped, or if I've regressed and some people have progressed, obviously that's going to happen, because I was I wasn't there for a week and a half. Just, deal with it and stop freaking out. So that was session one, which was brutal, but took some positives away from it, which is always nice. Then the next session, I came back and we were doing like a takedown because we just got a new influx of shit. And so we're doing like some of the more basic takedowns, the one where you grab the sleeve, grab the collar, put your foot against the weight against put the foot against the waist of the sleeve side and fall down and pull them into guard. Like done it before, but good to go back over it, especially after this little hiatus I took. So everybody sort of drifts around to find a partner, and for some reason, well, it just happened, but everyone had been picked, or everyone had a partner except for this small woman, who might have weighed probably half of what I did, and I was like, oh, okay. I was looking around like, and she was like, well, let's go together. I mean, she was a bit more experienced. Like I think she was a two-stripe white belt, but just, half my size, half my weight. And I was like, okay. I don't want to hurt this person, and I really don't want to get the rep of being. I mean, like I said in my last podcast, the priority one at jiu-jitsu is to not hurt people. So the whole time I was complete, and of course we're doing like a takedown throwy sort of thing. It's not like it's something that for a heavier person against a weaker person, it's easy to hurt somebody, but it's also easier to just pull them down. Like I could totally just do it technically completely incorrect and just rip this person to the ground, which is definitely not the goal. So this whole session, we were going very slowly, very meticulously, and at the start I was like, well, this is kind of shit. This is annoying. But looking back on it, I think it was actually extremely valuable to learn this technique with this person because it forced me to really pull back the strength. Like I was very consciously using very little strength and just trying to be as technically sound as possible and be as smooth as possible without being forceful, and not just if she's doing something to resist what I'm doing, then use a technique to get past it rather than just, you know, pulling and shoving and muscling past, because that in the long run, while I have that as an advantage, it's not something that I should rely on. And technique outdoes strength every day. So while it was tedious at the start, it was actually very valuable. And, we both walked away completely. Well, she walked away completely fine. It was great. Um, which was kind of a confidence boost. Showed that I could pull back, use strength and control and technique. And then afterwards, we didn't roll, but we did, a specific exercise where you start in guard or whatever, and one person has to escape and the other has to submit. That old chestnut. So we did that, and I started on the bottom. Well, she was in my guard, and the whole time it was the same thing. I was like, okay, I'm not just gonna, wrench around, flip her over, and yeah, gotcha. Um, because that wouldn't aid anything. It was really meticulous, technical progression, which was slow and sort of tedious for me. But that was another really grounding lesson. And there was a class right after, so we didn't have rolling time, which was a bit unfortunate because I think that would have been a really good headspace to start rolling in, especially against a bigger opponent where I couldn't rely as much on just strength and ripping shit. So that was also valuable, but a bit tedious. So came back to jiu-jitsu the next day, and third time was when I really was like cooking. Well, not really cooking again, but really got in. I was inspired's not the right word, but I felt the power of jiu-jitsu again. Like these last few sessions was just like running through drills, not rolling as much, or if I was rolling, I wasn't being technically correct. And when you like feel it, like you get this sweep and it's just effortless, and you feel like the power of the techniques. Like I didn't really get that the first couple of times, but this third session we came back and we had this guest teacher that I haven't had before. Oh my god, it was crazy. Just we got this different perspective on, no, he taught us a different, a different way to open close guard and then pass it. And just the little details and all these things, like he was like, okay, if you turn your, like when you're defending, like you're in someone's guard, he was like, okay, if you grab their lapels and you turn your fist towards their face, then your elbow's in this position and they can't, put pressure on your elbow and drop it and sweep you. And then if you push down on their hips when you stand up, they can't move their upper body to reach around and grab your leg when you step up, so you don't have to control their arm. I was like, what the fuck? Just running through these techniques was, starting to feel the power of the jujitsu again. um, and then just really tight, snug guard passing after that, open it up, and then sweeping legs, and it was just that was great. But also, he really this was something that I wasn't really doing before the hiatus, and I think also was something that I needed to learn, and I'm so glad I did. And it was something that I kind of didn't really know. Like I was kind of aware, but didn't really know when we'd learn techniques. I'm trying to be a good training partner, and if I feel that um that there's something that maybe the person missed or a detail or something, I'd be like, oh, like put your elbow on the inside of my leg so that way I don't, you know, hit you here and can sweep you, and they do the same to me, vice versa. It's fine. You help each other out if they miss things. But doing the techniques, we were always sort of passive. Like all of my training partners and especially me, it was kind of a passive thing. Like you apply your guard properly and tightly, but you're not You're not really resisting or doing things. I always thought that meant like struggling against them and stuff. And the instructors were like, "How to simulate combat?" And I was like, "But we're learning. This is the first time that some of us are doing this technique. How is it supposed to be like combat?" But he was watching us, run through this drill with partners, and he stopped us and he was like, "You need to, if they miss something, like for example the knee thing, um, we're working in close guard or something. He was like, if they miss holding your knee properly, try and pull your knee out, and if you can pull it out, then retrace your steps, go and do it again." I was like, "Oh, okay." So the whole time that me and my training partner were going, we started, slow and steady, like I sort of have always done, or like we've always done. But this time, every time I felt a little gap or something that I could escape with or manipulate, I took it. And he did the same for me. And it was so valuable for picking up the tiny details. It was something I'd found with my techniques before as well. Like I'd know the broad strokes of it and I'd get most of it, but there's always this crucial tiny little detail that I'd miss out that would sort of unravel everything. And then I'd have to rely on muscling things to get back to the point where I was if I'd used, this little detail properly. So when we were training and doing like this, I finally understood what doing it like combat was. It wasn't, wrestling and doing it like you're in a fight. It's exposing these little cracks and crevices that can be manipulated to escape, and what weakens the technique. And that was a really awesome lesson to learn actually. So I was hyped after that. Hyped after learning how to do drills. um, but no, it was great and really feeling the power of jujitsu again. Not having it done to me, which is cool. It's always good to be reminded of how easily someone can wreck you if they know what you're doing. But to feel like that you've really got the technique and just effortlessly do this, a guard pass or a sweep or a submission. Oh god, it was such a great feeling that I missed out, and I finally felt that after like 2.5 weeks of taking off and coming back to jujitsu. So, and also this transferred into the roles that day as well. I had this training partner that I really loved training with. He was there as well. After I'd done technique with someone, I rolled with this guy who I really like rolling with. We were sort of similar levels. We both speak English. Really helpful. He's a little bit better than me, a bit more technically sound, but I'm bigger. So it's sort of forced, it's we're a good match for each other. But these roles started to feel like proper roles again. Like he'd get really good positions and technically pull off this thing, get me into a position, and then I'd successfully defend against it and expose a little thing that I could use to flip him and put him into a worse position. And then we just sort of went back like that and just feeling a proper role again. I think I lost, but or we drew. I don't know. But just to feel the proper flow of a role again was just awesome. And it's such a fucking cool feeling. Oh, I missed it so much. But but yes, that was my little hiatus. It sucked not being able to do jujitsu, and I have definitely regressed a little bit, I should say. Which sucks, but it's also helped me to well, it's also given me an opportunity to rediscover some of the awesome things that I love about jujitsu, which has been really inspirational and makes me feel fucking great. So yeah, that's my little weekly update. 2 weeks later. But yeah, thanks for listening, and see you all in the next one.